Hello, my name is Dee Ross. I'm the founder and CEO of the Ross Foundation. Our mission is to address racial inequities through advocacy and by removing the barriers to resources, services, and wellness programs in communities directly impacted the most. Our vision is to end poverty, and our areas of focus, of course, mental health, housing, food security, education, and outreach. Um, the reason why I want to shout out to DMHA for having this beautiful, amazing conference, because this is necessary conversations that we need to continue to have to improve the equity around our society to make sure all walks of life and all backgrounds have access to the necessary resources to thrive. Um, and I want to apologize because I cannot physically be there in person. But this is so important to me that even on my vacation on the cruise, that I wanted to make sure that my voice and your voice was heard. So moving along, we're going to jump right into the first topic: the importance and impact of volunteers. Volunteering is so essential, especially to a nonprofit organization. That is the makeup, the biggest makeup of support that one organization can have. And, having people that you could depend on that's loyal and can contribute in a way that's just uh, as common as your staff can and have different skill sets or just members of the community who want to get involved. I think the most important thing is to have people with lived experiences a part of your organization, leading this effort, leading this fight, and not just having people who have master's degree and PhDs leading the mission and the vision. No, why can't we have both? Not one or the other, but both. And I think the other important thing is we have to continue to talk to funders around the importance of capacity building and not limiting our funding. Some look at volunteers as more of just a check box, a check off a check box. And no, it's more than that. When we're talking about smaller organizations who cannot don't have the budget to afford full-time staff or part-time staff, we want our volunteers to be deemed in the same light as staff when it comes to funding opportunities due to the fact that a lot of them are fulfilling the roles that a staff duty will have. So why not look at volunteers in that regard if they are feeling a responsibility or duty that would help improve uh, more equitable funding for the smaller organizations who mainly are ran by volunteers. We need to find funders um, that do not mind investing in smaller BIPOC organizations and grassroots organizations. And what I mean by that, in an equitable way, I deal with something called philanthropy inequities. And it is a challenge for a Black-led nonprofit to get the support and resources and funding that we're entitled to or that we deserve. It is challenging. When George Floyd died, a lot of organizations and funders came out and said Black Lives Matter, that they're going to improve racial equity and also do a lot of diversity, inclusion, and equity training. And so since then, more funding has went to white-led organizations serving uh, uh, serving BIPOC communities than Black-led organizations serving BIPOC communities. And it has been a challenge when, you know, of course, the Black-led nonprofit like myself, is closer to the pain of Black and Brown people, boots on the ground. And even when we show that data and that we are closest to the pain, that we are the makeup and right representation of the people we serve, there is still divestment when it comes to our type of organizations, and it's a challenge that we have to continue to push the needle forward. Um, and in that regards, not just in a way where it's just funding, but also coming alongside of us if it's some areas that we fall short in as far as like technical assistance. And don't just give us the funding and give us a year or so to complete uh, the task or have the outcomes. No, have a wrapped around support system around us. This is how you invest in a smaller BIPOC community organization, is not just funding them, but also giving them the technical assistance they need to thrive and be successful in that area. And one way could be, hey, you give $100,000, to the Ross Foundation, right? And and then you just uh, leave without really helping us with the CRM, the data collection, the systems of that we need to fulfill your expectation, but also serve our community successfully. And one initiative that is currently a makeup of that is the DMHA's Accelerator Initiative. The Accelerator Initiative, which the Ross Foundation is proud to be a recipient of, is going in the right direction. It's creating a model of what I just mentioned, where they are investing into BIPOC organizations, um, and they are going over and above to improve every organization that's a part of this cohort uh, in a in an equitable way that I've never seen before. They have a coach. They have us paired up with coaches. They have us paired up with content area providers. They even gave us seed capital and more funding to be able to pay for the services, the systems that we need in place, and to hire some staff that we need over the course of 2 years. And so I'm very appreciative of the Accelerated Initiative. And shout out to DMHA for going over and beyond and creating a model that could be replicated in the philanthropic world, not just giving us funding, but really putting us in a situation where we're sustainable and able to compete for more dollars and never and go and keep on jumping into this incline versus declining after receiving funding. That's the type of support and investment we need all across the board. Next question I will go to is yes. So it's a lot of agencies, state government, and a lot of funders that wants the BIPOC community to trust them, but those same agencies have a lack of trust when it comes to funding grassroots organizations, and so that's a challenge, where they want us at the table to talk about the solutions and what's needed, but when it comes down to funding the organizations that's already doing the work, it's a hesitancy when it comes to funding our type of organizations when they see that we're closest to the pain. For instance, COVID-19, a lot of doors were shut, a lot of community organizations doors were shut, but a lot of grassroots organizations were still boots on the ground, meeting people where they are and giving them the resources and services that they needed to survive during COVID. And so there was a lot of philanthropic efforts across our city and state. And majority of those efforts and funding went towards the organizations whose doors were shut, and to administer, for instance, rental assistance into the community. How can a resident who's directly impacted have access to these type of resources if those doors are shut and those organizations are not working um, beyond the four walls and working remotely? How are they able to administer those services and resources to the community they need it the most? So they had to partner with outreach grassroots organizations like ourselves to administer that type of resource and service to the community. So if one of those organizations got 300,000, for instance, they turn around and outsource outreach of it to us or the Ross Foundation to for $15,000. And the bulk of that money is supposed to go towards this type of effort. And so this is the challenge we have. How can we cut out the middleman and get the resources directly and funding we need to support our people directly and not have to go through an extra layer of support where they take off a huge chunk for administrative assistance and more than that, more funding can essentially go to the community. And one of the biggest things is how can we look beyond the lens of grassroots organizations not having the capacity or systems in place for necessary funding? You know, Organizations will not accomplish what they say they would do because of the assumption that they lack experience with large amounts of funds. They do not have the capacity to serve larger amounts, larger amounts of clients. This is the importance of going back to: do we have the staff, the volunteers to administer those resources and services? Yes, we do. So how can we also, if it's things that's lacking within an organization, how can funders come alongside of us and improve in those areas versus using it as a deterrent to not support us? And how do organizations get experience if funders were not willing to fund them and provide smaller amounts that do not assist in growth? So trust goes both ways. Um, this is another way state government agencies and funders can be equitable. And DMHA is setting the bar on what that looks like. And I will say also in closing that we have to be more action oriented than transactional and performative. We cannot let racial equity become another term, similar to how DEI training has become. When we talk about what is your organization stands on diversity and inclusion, most organizations or institutions release a DEI statement or included or we added trainings. But have we really took a dive into what diversity, equity, and inclusion really mean within your workforce? Have we really took a step into what racial equity really means within your workplace? Racial equity. When we talk about equity, that means capital and funding and supporting a community, not in an equal way, but in an equitable way, going over and beyond and the norms. So we are living in the times where traditional solutions are not the answer anymore. We have to think of innovative, non-traditional solutions. And the one way is making sure you support non-traditional organizations such as BIPOC led grassroots organizations like the Ross Foundation. Thank you all for your time. I hope you guys was able to take notes and get a lot out of today. And feel free to email me at DROSS at the Ross Foundation Community.org if you have any follow-up questions or you have any comments that you would like to share with us. And then I will make sure that I reply and get back with you as soon as possible. Enjoy yourselves, and I'm going back to enjoying this vacation. Thank you. Take care.